Right now, somewhere in your chest, there's a low hum, not pain, not quite fear, just a quiet sense that something is wrong, and you can't name what it is. Maybe it was there when you woke up. Maybe it's been there for years. Most people assume anxiety is a modern invention, a product of too many notifications, too much news, too much of everything. And honestly, that case makes itself. The world is louder than it's ever been. The stress is real. But here's the problem with that explanation. For 300,000 years, every single one of your ancestors lived in a world that was actively trying to kill them. And they were almost never anxious. That gap is the question. They faced more actual danger than you will ever see, and their bodies recovered from it completely. Yours doesn't. By the end of this video, you'll understand exactly why, and what that tells you about the feeling you can't seem to shake. Robert Sapolsky is a neuroendocrinologist at Stanford University. He spent 30 years in the Masai Mara in Kenya, drawing blood from wild baboons during real moments of threat, measuring their cortisol response in real time in the field. Nobody had done that before at that scale, and what he found would take him the rest of his career to fully explain. Deep inside your brain, there's a small cluster of neurons called the amygdala. It doesn't think, it doesn't reason, it fires. When your ancestor heard the wrong kind of sound in the long grass, the wrong crunch, the wrong silence, the amygdala fired instantly. Cortisol and adrenaline flooded their body in under a second. Heart rate surged, vision narrowed. Every non-essential system shut down. They were no longer thinking. They were running, and they had to be, because the threats were real. Leopards dropped from above without warning. Rival groups raided in the dark. Caves had things living in them. For 300,000 years, every danger your ancestors faced was physical, local, and right in front of them. But here's the part almost nobody talks about. The moment the predator was gone, the cortisol cleared completely. Within minutes, heart rate dropped, vision widened. They went back to sitting by the fire. Sapolsky measured this exact pattern in baboons, the same stress system running inside you right now. In wild animals, every spike resolves. No lingering, no rumination, threat gone, cortisol gone, clean. The whole system was built as a short, explosive burst, followed by a complete recovery. So what happened to yours? Your amygdala cannot tell the difference between a leopard and an email. That sounds like a metaphor. It isn't. Present your brain with a performance review, a passive-aggressive message, a bill you can't cover, and your amygdala fires the same response it fires for a physical predator. Same cortisol, same heart rate spike, same tunnel vision. The system doesn't distinguish between them. It detects threat and it fires. But the email doesn't leave. The bill comes back next month. The conversation stays unresolved, so your body never receives the signal to stand down. Think about this. The stress response was designed for a threat with a finish line. Your ancestors' leopard either got them or it didn't. Either way, within minutes, it was over. Their body knew what done looked like. Modern stress has no finish line, and so the cortisol stays, a low, persistent hum. The system's still waiting for a resolution that never comes. But here's the part that should disturb you more than any of that. Your brain can generate the threat entirely on its own. You can be lying in bed, completely safe, in total silence, and your amygdala fires anyway. Because you thought of something that might happen next week, something that hasn't happened yet, that possibly won't happen at all. Your ancestors couldn't do that. The predator was there, or the night was quiet. Every fear they carried was real, local, and eventually finished. You live in a world that invented the future, and the future never ends. In 2017, researchers published a landmark study in the Lancet on the Tsimane people of Bolivia, one of the last populations on Earth still living closest to ancestral conditions. Physically active, socially dense, no processed food, no scheduled work. Their cardiovascular disease rates were the lowest ever recorded in any human population studied. And Sapolsky's own research confirmed something just as striking. Stress-related diseases, ulcers, hypertension, immune disorders are almost exclusively found in two groups: humans and the animals we keep captive. Wild animals don't develop them. Zoo animals do. Lab rats do. The loop closes for wild animals every single time. The threat resolves, the cortisol clears, the body recovers. The system works exactly as designed, just not in a cage. Right now, your amygdala is scanning. It has been scanning every day of your life. Not for leopards, but for rejection, for failure, for every version of tomorrow that might go wrong. Every low-grade sense of dread that has no clear source. That's not a character flaw. That's your smoke detector going off in a house with no fire. The alarm is working exactly as it was designed. The problem is what it's been asked to protect you from. Sapolsky put it this way: humans are the only animals on Earth sophisticated enough to turn on the stress response for things that haven't happened yet. No other species lies awake at 2 a.m. rehearsing a conversation that doesn't exist. Your ancestors feared the thing in front of them. You fear everything you can imagine, and your body cannot tell the difference. Your ancestors had harder lives. Most of them died young, by any standard we'd recognize today. But their nervous systems, in the space between real threats, were quiet in a way most people alive right now will never experience. Not because the world was gentler, because every fear they carried had an ending. We built a civilization sophisticated enough to remove almost all of those endings. The predators are gone. The fire is always warm, but the alarm is still on. And the off switch went missing somewhere between the savannah and the inbox. Is chronic anxiety the price of modern life, or the proof that something has gone seriously wrong? Let me know in the comments.